Growing up, I used to think love was something I had to earn. I tried everything to make my mum proud. Good grades, quiet behaviour, even pretending to be happy when I wasn't. But no matter what I did, she never looked at me the way mothers look at their children. My dad was the only one who cared, the only person who made me feel like I mattered. Then one morning, everything changed. He was gone. The silence in the house after his death was louder than ever. Days later, my mum showed up at my door, not with tears or comfort, but with papers, asking about his inheritance. In that moment, I realised she didn't come because she missed me. She came because she wanted what he left behind. That's when I finally understood what love and greed really look like. All my life, I wondered why my mum never loved me. As a kid, I used to sit by her side, hoping she'd notice me, hoping for a smile, a hug, even a kind word. But she never did. No matter how hard I tried to make her proud, she treated me like a stranger living in her house. My dad, on the other hand, was my whole world. He was gentle, patient, and always reminded me that I was enough. He filled the space my mother left empty, but life has a cruel way of testing you. And one day, he was gone. Suddenly, I was left alone with the woman who never wanted me. Weeks passed in silence until, out of nowhere, my mum came back, acting concerned, pretending to care. For a moment, I almost believed her, until she mentioned my father's inheritance. In that instant, the truth hit me harder than my father's death ever did. She hadn't come for love or forgiveness, she came for money. And that moment changed everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and what it really means to be loved. From as far back as I can remember, my mother never looked at me with love. Her eyes carried something cold, something distant, as if I was a reminder of a mistake she couldn't forget. I tried everything to please her. When I got good grades, I'd run to her, holding my report card like a trophy. She'd barely glance at it. When I got sick, she wouldn't sit by my side. Sometimes I'd hear her laugh with neighbours or relatives and wonder why her voice never sounded that warm around me. The only light in that dark house was my father. He was kind, patient, and soft-spoken. The kind of man who remembered every little thing that mattered to me. He made me breakfast, helped with homework, and always told me stories before bed. "Don't worry about your mum," he'd say softly. "Some people don't know how to show love." I didn't understand it then, but those words carried truth. Still, I always hoped one day she'd change. I dreamed of a birthday where she'd hug me, or even just say she loved me. That day never came. Instead, her distance grew stronger, and I started to accept that maybe love wasn't meant for everyone, at least not from your own mother. My father became my everything, my teacher, my best friend, my comfort. We spent hours talking about life, about dreams, about becoming someone kind even when others weren't. He'd always say, "Bitterness will eat you alive, choose peace, not hate." I didn't know then how much I'd need those words later. Every evening, we'd have dinner together while my mum sat quietly, pretending not to notice our laughter. Sometimes I'd see her glare at us as if our happiness annoyed her, but my father never let it bother him. "Let her be," he'd whisper, smiling. "We've got each other." Then one day, everything started to change. My father grew weaker. At first, it was small, a cough that wouldn't go away, skipped meals, tired eyes. I thought it was just stress. But the doctors' faces told another story. He was sick, very sick. Watching him fade away broke me piece by piece. My mother barely reacted. It was like she was waiting for it to happen. When he passed away, the world stopped. I felt hollow, like the only person who ever loved me had taken my heart with him. And my mother, she didn't even cry. The funeral felt unreal. People cried, whispered condolences, and shared stories about how good my father was. But my mother stood there emotionless, not a single tear. I tried to hold her hand during the burial, but she pulled away. That's when I knew I was truly alone. After the ceremony, the house was silent. I wandered through the rooms, touching his clothes, his books, the little notes he used to leave me. Every corner reminded me of him. The smell of his cologne still lingered in the air. I slept in his chair that night, crying until my eyes hurt. Days turned into weeks. My mother and I barely spoke. She stayed in her room most of the time, locked ears away, until one morning she appeared, suddenly kind, oddly gentle. She asked how I was, offered tea, and even smiled. For a moment, I thought maybe grief had changed her. Maybe losing Dad made her realize how precious family was. But when she brought up your father's property, everything inside me froze. She asked if I knew where he kept the documents, the bank details, the will. That's when I understood. She didn't come for me. She came for his inheritance. My father wasn't even gone a month, and she was already chasing money. After that conversation, everything between us became a quiet war. She kept pretending to care, cooking meals, asking questions, all leading back to the same thing, the inheritance. I stayed silent at first, but inside, I was boiling. This woman, who never cared whether I ate or smiled, suddenly acted like the perfect mother. I wanted to scream, to ask her why now. One evening, I finally confronted her. I told her I knew what she was doing, that I wasn't going to give her what she wanted. Her face twisted in anger. She accused me of being ungrateful, said I was poisoning my father's memory. But I'd seen her true colors too many times to believe her lies. The argument grew ugly. She shouted that everything my father owned belonged to her. I told her the only thing he ever truly owned was his love, and she never earned that. After that day, she stopped pretending. She packed her things, took whatever she could, and left without a word. Watching her walk away, I didn't feel relief or anger, just emptiness. For the first time, I realized that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who teach you what love should never look like. Time passed, and the silence in the house became my new normal. At first it hurt. Every room reminded me of what I'd lost. But slowly, I began to heal. I found comfort in my father's words, in his letters, in the small acts of kindness he'd left behind. I realized that love isn't about blood, it's about choice. My mother chose bitterness. My father chose love. I learned to forgive her, not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. Holding on to hate would have made me like her, cold, hollow, and empty. Instead, I started focusing on what my father taught me, kindness, honesty, and self-worth. Now, whenever I think of him, I smile. I know he'd be proud that I didn't let pain turn me into someone else. My mother may have come for money, but I walked away with something far more valuable: clarity. Family isn't defined by who gave you life, it's defined by who gives you love. And sometimes losing everything helps you see who really stood by you all along. That's how my father's death and my mother's greed changed my life forever.